Good evening. I would like to call this meeting of the BBRSD School Committee to order. Please be aware that your voice or image may be recorded. Thank you, Julie. Let's all stand. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We will start with public comment. Is anyone here to make a public comment? Okay. Mr. Doherty, if you'd like to stand and state your name and who
Sure.
you are.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Peter Doherty. I am an English teacher in the ELA department here at Town High School. I wanted to speak today. Would like to read a letter that I just finally finished today to the school committee regarding policy subcommittee that's looking at MASC policy ILD. Dear members of the Berlin-Boylston Regional School Committee and Superintendent Costello, I began writing this letter last Monday. It's been a week and I must have written at least 10 drafts by now, since there are so many things I feel need to be addressed from the meeting on 6 June 2024 regarding the proposed amendments to MASC policy ILD in the ensuing discussion. For the sake of relative brevity, I'll keep this letter to what I believe are the most important issues. I plan to attend the entire meeting in August and will gladly answer any questions during the meeting that may arise during the discussion of this agenda item. As a follow-up to my emails from Sunday, 9 June 2024, which expressed my concerns that the adoption of proposed amendments to MASC policy ILD would unintentionally target and marginalize certain students and therefore open the district to litigation, I'm encouraging the school committee to reject the policy subcommittee's proposal. I found the potential ramifications to both our students and our district of such concern. I decided to contact a civil litigation law firm for guidance to see if my initial thoughts were justified. Based on communication I have had over the past week with the firm, as well as conversations with Tohonto's Social Studies Department Chair Steve Machico and history teacher Danielle Rinker, who are well versed in the state-mandated Civic Action Project, which plays a role in the impetus behind this policy change, proposed amendments to MASC policy ILD are problematic for multiple reasons. First and foremost, if MASC policy ILD is adopted as amended by the policy subcommittee, it is a serious concern that the policy would be discriminatory and could open the district to discrimination litigation on multiple counts. An education advocate and specialist within the firm I consulted believes that, quote, specifically listing sexual orientation, gender, or preferred gender into the district's opt-in policy, where all other types of surveys would not be subject to the same opt-in rules, would be a clear discrimination, end quote. Additionally, by making this policy opt-in, which creates a major obstacle in students receiving data for the research, it could be argued that the district creating obstacles for only students who wish to potentially research sensitive topics that are fundamentally important to who they are, directly opposes the amended Access to Equal Educational Opportunity Regulation 603 CMR 26.00 and the non-discrimination provision of the Charter School Regulation 603 CMR 1.00, which, quote, requires schools to establish policies and procedures, provide training, and implement and monitor practices to ensure that obstacles to equal access to school programs are removed for all students. To reiterate, obstacles need to be removed, not created. During the June 6th meeting, I heard members of the subcommittee argue the amended policy is to protect parental rights and that no students would be denied the equal opportunity to study these sensitive topics. While that may be true, by creating a separate set of rules and conditions for one group of students as opposed to other groups with no such rules and conditions, this policy is dangerously close to echoing the infamous Separate but Equal Declaration of Plessy versus Ferguson 1896, which was later overturned by Brown versus Board of Education 1954. Considering our nation's troubled history in this area, I hope it is safe to say that no one wants to promote a policy that creates a separate but equal environment in our schools. While I respect and agree with the subcommittee's desire to protect parental rights, which the original unamended wording of MASC policy ILD guarantees based on the Anti-Discriminatory Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment, I believe the proposed changes to the language go too far and actually make MASC policy ILD discriminatory, which will then in turn cause irreparable harm to our district and our students. As the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education states, all students need a safe and supportive school environment to progress academically and developmentally, and administrators, faculty, staff, and students each play an important part in creating and sustaining that environment. Potential civil rights violations aside, it is the opinion of my colleagues Steve Pacheco, Daniel Rinker, and myself that the proposed policy would also negatively affect, and in some cases directly oppose, the state-mandated Civil Action Project, as well as the Massachusetts Social Studies frameworks, which encourage students to freely research topics of importance to them, which often include the sensitive topics listed in MASC Policy ILD. On a similar note, Tohonto's own senior exhibitions would also be adversely affected by this policy for the same reasons. DESE's documents titled Race, Racism, and Culture Responsive Teaching in History and Social Science in Massachusetts, Frequently Asked Questions, directly addresses the study of sensitive topics by stating, and I quote, "An effective history and social science education incorporates diverse perspectives and acknowledges that perceptions of events are affected by race, ethnicity, culture, religion, education, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, and personal experience. The traditional model of the United States is e pluribus unum, out of many, one. A history and social science education that does justice to the remarkable diversity of our country must tell the histories of individuals and groups and honor a plurality of life stories while acknowledging our ongoing struggle to achieve a more perfect union. Teaching how the concepts of freedom, equality, the rule of law, and human rights have influenced the United States world history necessarily involves discussions of race, ethnicity, culture, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, and other characteristics. Effective instruction challenges students to value their own heritage while embracing our common ideals and shared experiences as they develop their own rigorous thinking about accounts of events. Effective instruction celebrates the progress the United States has made in embracing diversity, while at the same time encouraging honest and informed academic discussions about prejudice, racism, and bigotry in the past and present. Race and racism are part of America's complicated history, and a complete history and social science education must include an honest examination of prejudice, bigotry, and oppression in the past and present," end quote. By adopting the proposed changes, our district would have a policy that, in essence, discourages students from studying sensitive issues by implementing restrictive regulations, thus reducing the opportunities for our entire community to engage in discussions of race, ethnicity, culture, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, and other topics that are at the core of our collective American experience. As I said earlier, there are many concerns I have that I am happy to address at the next meeting. But for now, I'll end with a few suggestions on how we can move forward from here so that both parental and student rights are not infringed. 1, reject the proposed amendments to MASC Policy ILD. 2, create a distributed document like countless other documents our district has created that allows parents to officially opt out of surveys that surround the sensitive topics listed in MASC Policy ILD. The particulars of this can be worked out in a policy subcommittee. 3, reconvene the policy subcommittee for further discussions of this issue, but amend the subcommittee to include A, a Tohonto administrator, B, a civil rights education law expert, C, faculty or department chairs whom this policy would affect, and D, a student representative. For further information on the Civic Action Project, please feel free to access the hyperlinks below. I put in my digital copy of my letter a bunch of links to the Civil Action Project. Thank you for your time and consideration. Peter Levy.
Thank you. Okay, did anyone else want to say anything from the public? Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, the time you took to write that. All right, communications. Did anyone have any communications?
Megan, I want to take some time.
Yes, yep.
Kind of communication, not really communication. The past few weeks, ending last night with the budget was a little bit stressful for everybody. Everybody had some frustrations to the point where even Mary had some nice things to say last night, so that was very welcome. A couple of months ago, Megan, we had a meeting, and I was a little short with you at one point. I kind of snapped out at you, so sorry for that.
Thank you.
All right. Jess, same with you. You mentioned the hyperlinks a couple weeks ago, and I snapped to you too, so I'm sorry to you too. Last night, shaking hands with Peg and Scott Hawkins and everybody was an interesting event. So hopefully we move on and get this financial situation unraveled. Thanks.
Okay, great. All right, any other communications? All right, thank you. Could I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Julie?
Second.
Jess? Any discussion on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well, that motion passes. All right, Nicole's taking notes from home. Okay, we'll move into my report. So I'm gonna do my report, and then Mr. Doherty is here because he has a field trip as well. So we can do that vote because we have a presentation from our auditors coming up, and then we're gonna have a presentation about portrait of graduate, go into some budget discussion, we have the administrator report. It's gonna be lengthy, so I wanna get that vote done, so that way if you wanna take off, no judgment. I would take off if I could, trust me. Okay, so quickly, my chair report. So for anyone that still has not heard the news, the budget did pass last night, the school budget. We did cut about $225,000, and then we agreed to apply another $150,000 of cash or revenue, circuit breaker or school choice or E&D, wherever we have. We have to take a look at that and see where we may have some excess. So that's something that Michael will be working on in the future. I don't know if he has an update tonight. We'll wait till his turn, but obviously it hasn't been 24 hours, so not expecting anything. But I did want everyone to know that. So essentially what happened was we met smack dab in the middle, right? We had about a $750,000 difference from the town of Berlin. And the schools gave the $225 plus the $150, which is the $375, and the town threw in some cash, and then they raised the tax levy slightly. So in the end, everyone ended up compromising. Like Mike said, it ended up working out, and hopefully moving forward, we've learned some lessons, and next year will be a lot easier. Hopefully. Okay, that's all I have to say. So did we want, Mr. Doherty, did you want to present, this is the overnight trip to the Cape?
This is our, other than the COVID years, this is our annual Cape trip with the AP students in our Nation Being class on a multidisciplinary study.
Yep.
Over the weekend. So the itinerary at this point is still building. It's a couple of months away. I just wanted to get this approved now because I know how busy things have been. And
Yep.
I think we have to seek 2 months prior to our trip, which is October 19th through 21. So I wanted to make sure we got this in as early as we could.
Yep. Yeah, because we do not anticipate to meet over the summer. So we will not be convening again. The committee will not be convening again until the end of August. So probably a good idea to get this done now.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's basically the same trip, with new groups of students. We'll be staying in the same hotel we've stayed in the last 2 years. We'll be taking the bus down. It's great having Chris Covino as an additional chaperone, plus his science knowledge and his bus skills. So that's
Okay, great. Did anyone have any questions on this?
It's always nice to see the presentation when they come back. So it's a wonderful experience they get to have. Thank you.
This is the one on the book. What's the book? I bought the book and I still haven't read it. Yeah. I would love to. Yeah. Okay, great. All
And I
right.
plan on attending as well. Like I've always attended and I continue to, I attended last year and I'll attend this year as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
This was our brainchild, the three of us back in 2012. Right? Is that when we started?
Yeah.
2012.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, 12. Oh,
Mhm.
it was like in December.
Yeah, this that was a little silly.
It's okay. It builds character. All right. Any questions? Okay. Could I please have a motion to approve the overnight field trip to Cape Cod with Mr. Doherty? Okay. Jess and Julie, any discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I'm an aye as well. That motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna take it. I'm gonna
All right. Next up is going to be, we have a proposal from our auditors. So these are not our auditors. This is these folks are, they're like a sister company of our audit company because we have to keep things independent. So the proposal tonight, Carol and I, well, one of the findings from our last audit was that we needed, we had weak internal controls, which is very common, right, for small offices. So we asked our auditors to recommend somebody that could put together a proposal for us, and the company's called Markham. Our auditors is Powers and Sullivan, right? So Markham. So Michael and Jim are going to come up tonight, and they're going to talk to us about the proposal. It was in the drive on some of the services they may be able to offer us that will help with internal controls. Okay, and without further ado, please take it away.
Michael and Jim, do you want to come up and sit maybe
Yes.
between Michael and over
Yeah.
there? This is Michael McShay and Jim Lowe from Markham Accountants, and they're the parent company of
The parent company of Powers and Sullivan.
Right.
Previously, we had provided a PowerPoint. I don't know if that was distributed. I do have some copies as well if folks.
It was in the drive. Everyone saw the PowerPoint in the drive, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if anyone likes paper, wants to flip paper, I'm more than happy.
Yeah, you can pass it around in case anyone has questions.
Should we put it up on the screen?
That's gonna take a little bit, right?
Probably don't have everybody.
This is fine, yeah.
We have it in the drive, I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't need one. I would spread it, like Mr.
I've got it here.
You have it on your computer? All right, I was gonna say I have mine on. All
Have it electronically.
right, Jess and Julie, you guys have this? Yeah. All right, I think this is really gonna be relevant at this point.
So thank you very much for the opportunity to present tonight. We'll do some introductions and we'll go right into the presentation. My name is Jim Lowe. I'm the partner in charge of internal audit services for Markham. 31 years in the professional services industry where I've been external audit, internal audit, forensics audit, every type of compliance audit, regulatory audit, everywhere there is. I lead up the group and we specialize in internal controls, control assessments, enterprise risk assessments, fraud assessments. My colleague Mike.
Yeah, Mike McShay, 30 years in industry, been working with Jim for the last almost 7 years. I'm a director in our group, and we'll echo everything that Jim just mentioned. Our bios are probably on page, I think, 6 of the presentation. Everything else prior to that was just some general information on the firm, some of our credentials in the space. So the rest of that is for light entertainment tonight or tomorrow or over the weekend. And as mentioned, our bios are on page 6. And then on page 7, we get into the discussion around what we were proposing based on discussions that we had with the school over the last couple of months. And we're here tonight to kind of walk through just a little bit of that. So if you want, you might walk through it.
Yeah, I think just high level, we propose 2 phases. Obviously, we can do them concurrently or separate or just one, but we wanted to break it up based on the discussions we had with Carol and Megan, just to show the different options as to how we actually scoped it out and ultimately priced it.
So when we talk about phased approaches, a lot of what we see is, communities, whether it's the school system within the community or the town or the city or municipalities themselves, they're looking at problems that they're facing. A lot of those are around staffing constraints, the resources that they have, do they have the right experience, enough experience, what type of documentation exists if somebody leaves, who can come in and pick things up. So part of the reason we break this out also is to give the realization that this is a lot. This isn't something that's routine to either a town or to a school district like this to say, we're going to come in potentially and do all of this work and be in everybody's business for a number of weeks. So phasing it also gives everyone a chance to absorb what we've gone through, make some decisions, do some analysis, and then consider, is the phase that we've proposed where you still want to go, or do you want to go someplace else because we've gone through and done some analysis and some of the legwork and potentially raised an issue that was unexpected. It takes us in a completely different direction. So again, breaking it up gives everyone that chance to pause as well and reconsider where the direction needs to continue. So the first phase here, the nature of services, is just a disclaimer. The body of it is in phase one that we're talking about, basically going through the budgeting process and conducting a review over that entire scope of services that everyone is involved in. That would be from the town side, the school department side, the actual folks that are in the finance and accounting department. We're just wrapping one up, actually. Jim and I, we've been working on one in a different state that had pretty much this exact same request. They just weren't sure how budgets got constructed. How did budget inputs get analyzed? How do we ensure that the numbers we're using are coming from the right sources? That they're constantly updated for any changes that are taking place, whether it be financial impact, what we're actually getting in for the allocations themselves, or there are any changes at the federal and state level. So we've been asked to do this a couple of times. Like I said, we're just wrapping one up, very similar scope. The results of that is also a phased approach, and we've prepared to see deliverables on the right-hand side, which talks about what would you actually see afterwards. A lot of times we find that even in corporate life, in corporate America, people don't really have a good understanding of what the process even looks like. So when we talk about creating a flow chart, while it might seem fundamental at its core, you'll find that in a lot of places these don't even exist. And that's an easy way to point out where there's disconnects, where do we have some segregation of duties issues, where do we have information that's coming from a source that nobody has a good handle on or control over or access to, whether it be a funding source or information at a data level. So a flow chart's a great way to kind of, after you go through all these interviews with folks, to understand what the process is, see it on paper, see basically the roadmap from start to finish, and that points out where there could be disconnects as well, communication breakdowns, process breakdowns, a black hole where something just goes there and it doesn't seem to get followed up on. And we could also identify where there are gaps in the process, where there are gaps in controls, whether it be missing policies, procedures, the general understanding, do people have the right access? Are they doing too much of the whole process themselves? Again, talking about segregation of duties. So that process would take a couple of weeks. It's not a linear process necessarily to say it starts today and it ends 3 weeks from now. Elapsed time, it's a couple of week project of interviews and analysis. Then we go back and forth to make sure we've got all the right information. Because the last thing we want to do is hand something over and somebody raises their hand and says, well, you didn't ask me, you didn't get my input. So it does take a little bit of time to go through that. And then from there, if things continue and the district decides they want to go on to phase 2, which is on the next page, that talks about a broader assessment of all operations, which is a risk assessment. And that's also something we're working on in a number of instances as well, both in school settings and municipal settings. This is where you get everyone together independently of each other, and you find out, in their mind, where are the risks? Where do you think there's a problem? Whether it be a financial risk that the town or the school department might have, is it a reputational issue? Is it something they don't want to be in the newspaper over? Is it something that could potentially impact services? Could it impact you financially? So we gather those from all the different elements to be able to present back a risk assessment to say, budget process aside, here's a whole bunch of other things that you should consider, and where are you positioned to be able to address those? We actually come up with something at the end of the day that people go, we had no idea that we had this risk facing us. It could be ADA compliance. If you think of the spectrum of things that could be out there, it's just a great opportunity to get people to speak freely about what things are that they think are of concern. We weigh it and evaluate it and ask questions back and forth to make sure it isn't just a gripe, it's an actual risk that's foreseen. And then we would also prepare a report based on that, which has, if folks are familiar with the heat map, red, yellow, green, basically a 9-quadrant cube. And then we help plot that out. And obviously the things that are in the red, the things to worry about, the things that are in the green, at the end of the day, yes, it's a risk, but chances are it's not going to have a material impact. And that also then gives you a roadmap forward when you talk about where we need to spend time, energy, resources, hiring decisions, cutback decisions, anything along those lines, is the benefit of a risk assessment. So right now, those are the two options that we came up with through discussions. Again, all the procedures are kind of basically laid out on page 7 and 8, and then page 9 gets into cost and fee assumptions that we baked into this proposal.
A couple of points on phase one. One, it becomes a living document. Over time, it will change as your process changes, but it also becomes a training manual as new people come in new roles. They're not starting from scratch. It allows for them to get a head start as they come in. So that's probably one of the biggest understated value propositions that come out of this, is that you've got a roadmap for anyone that's coming in. In fact, if you're actually looking to bring someone in, you can explain that you have this documentation, and they may want to come because you have it and not learning it from scratch. On the risk assessment, what we also try to do is aggregate the risks, connect them. Is there a common root cause that's causing downstream 3 or 4 risks? Because we know you cannot mitigate 100% of risk, it's just too expensive. But you have to come up with the concept of what is the residual risk that you can live with, and can you connect your risk to actually mitigate one that has the downstream consequences with a minimal amount of effort to be able to keep that structure together. So a lot of what we try to do is think of sort of what are the pros that come out of this, as opposed to actually coming in and looking at what we're trying to solve, or what can of value come out of it that's not seen right away.
So we're happy to, of course, take any questions or try to answer anything that's on anyone's mind.
This is fitting, the timing of this. Carol and I had started talking to them back, I don't know, months ago, right, Carol? And we just, I'm sorry, we put you off 3 times probably already. Been putting out fires left and right here. So, yeah, I just think the timing of this is very fitting, because this budget process was difficult, to say the least. And we have had a lot of turnover in that department, and I think there's a lot of question marks. I don't think anything bad is happening. I think we could all benefit from somebody independent coming in and documenting process and kind of streamlining the budget process. Because I think right now, the turnover in the director of finance role, what have we had, like 7 or 8 director of finances in the past 10 years? I mean, so I think that this might be a huge benefit to the district, regardless of whoever ends up taking that seat permanently. Michael is interim. So I don't know what anyone else thinks. I just think that this might be a huge value add to the district, and listening to some of the public feedback about, frustrations with the budget process.
Can I ask you a question? When you said you work with the town, did you mean the town, the finance department in the town, or you were specific to just the school?
The engagement that Michael's referring to.
Yeah.
We were engaged by the town, the finance department of the town, but we worked with the school administration on a cost book.
Mm-hmm.
But in that scenario, the town actually engaged us because they didn't have any insight into the school. It was almost perhaps reversed from what we're perhaps talking about today, but they wanted to get a level of insight. All of our interviews were from the school side, but then we brought it back to the town, and we actually met with the town council, the school council as well, in a session like this, interviewed them like in a session like this.
Right.
That would be helpful. So you could go to like the different town finance committees and kind of understand their process and like document it and bring it back to us.
Yeah.
What we would do is we
That would
flow
be
chart out the swim lane, so you could see from the town to the school, back to the town to the approvals. And in that scenario, we had a big red arrow that stopped right there, and they still haven't approved that town their budget yet. And all of our findings that came out were concluded to our suggestions as to why that was there. But I think seeing it documented in swim lanes between the town and the school, it becomes a lot more transparent, and then it becomes a lot more evident as to what the holdups are.
So it isn't necessarily a one size fixes all, but it does help point out the obvious breakdowns. Like I said, the roads to nowhere, the bridges to nowhere, if there are activities that are taking place that don't seem to make sense. We're also going to provide recommendations as part of it. What would fix this? Is it a communication problem? Is it, more structured meetings need to occur with agendas and deliverable dates between all the parties? Is it a knowledge break down? Does somebody not have the requisite skills to be able to do it? Or is it just, at the end of the day, it's money and you can only squeeze the rock so much to get what you're looking for? And this is not uncommon. Everyone that we've been talking to, it's a budget issue in terms of where do we have to cut things? So we know that there's a lot of these asks coming out, and what doesn't help is having any confusion of the whole, the process that's going into it in the first place. So if there's uncertainties or confusion or just lack of accountability, things like this can at least point those things out and offer recommendations to remedy them. It's up to whether or not those are actionable in the short term, the long term. Financially, of course, is a cost to a lot of the fixes that you need to put in if there's problems. But you'll at least have that roadmap of where things are and maybe what you need to do to get to where you want to be. What's the ideal future state?
And we have 2 towns, so that wouldn't affect the quote.
Right.
No, that the quote's all in.
Yeah. And what was unique in the one that we were just talking about, we actually met with that state's Department of Education to understand their interaction with the school department and the data that they had, so we could do benchmarking study of districts that they thought were comparative to them, whether it was total population, student population, the number of schools, ratios of students, just to show that all of that is an expense, or it shows the expenses. And when you actually start to see the data, and the data that state departments of education that town was not even using as part of forecasting, it became pretty evident where the breakdown was.
I had a question. Jim, what is the timeline that you would anticipate for like the phase 1, and then how soon, like when you do typically do this work, and how soon would we need to let you know?
As soon as you want, or as late as you want, we'll be here. So I wouldn't worry about that. Phase 1 is generally, a 3 to 6 week project, and maybe the report writing sometimes takes a little bit longer because there's versions that are going through, and we want to make sure. We obviously going to take the first crack at a draft report, but there's going to be feedback. We're not going to get everything 100% right, and there's that going back and forth. Same with the second phase, another 3 to 6 weeks, same sort of thing. We don't need to do concurrently or consecutively. We can do one, wait 6 months, do the other one, so we can break it up anyway that you see appropriate.
But that went to the point about it doesn't have to be linear. It just becomes problematic sometimes when you think about it. I only have 3 weeks to get this done, and then half the people we need to interview are at the Cape or on vacation or something. So
Maybe on the field trip.
yeah,
I'll
so
keep
it's-
that field trip.
yeah, a lapsed time, but linear, it just is going to depend on schedules and trying to get it, herding all of the cats together to get the information that we would need.
So it would be something if we moved forward with this, it would be something we would have for next spring for the budget. Might be helpful. Or for when we have a permanent director of finance, again, a new person, I think that would, I can't speak for Michael, but I'm sure it was difficult coming into what he came into.
There's been some moments.
Maybe one of the deliverables we can walk whoever that person that comes in through our reports and what we
Yeah.
find, and we can help to onboard them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just heard you. And the idea, of creating a roadmap for people coming in is
That's probably one of the most important things is having a set of documented policies, procedures, process, and so on. And just, I think what's important about it is a refresh, at least on an annual basis. It doesn't need to be a full, but just to be sure a confirmation email going out to various departments has anything changed, just to confirm it so you're keeping it fresh. We've seen a lot of times where folks would create documentation, put on the shelf, wait 3 or 4 years, and it's not worth the paper it's written on.
Right, because it's changing.
It sounds like an amazing process, the price tag after yesterday was hard to swallow. I respect your work and the time you put into it, but it's hard after the last several months. And
Right.
like, especially. But, having it would prevent that situation from happening.
yeah, that's how I would look at it in the future, looking forward.
Yeah, and I think it's helpful. It's almost, I feel like that was where we got the most criticism, was the whole budget process. It wasn't, oh, you guys want more books, or oh, you want another teacher. It was, this process is not clear, I'm confused. So I feel like it would address something that, in my opinion, publicly people have been disgruntled with. And so, yeah, I think that's something first we'd have to take it to Michael and see about the funds, obviously. I don't know that the school committee has to vote on this or if it's a decision that Carol has to make. I don't know the process on that. Because it's not really a contract, right? It's just she would be making a decision on, right? I don't know.
I guess I would feel like I wouldn't want to make this decision, to your point, this isn't a costly, right, service. I would absolutely want you to vote on this, and I think it's also the benefit to the school committee. As well as myself, right? So I would,
Okay.
but it seems like if we take this into consideration, and we can all, in order to get Jim and Michael, consider it over the summer and get back to them in the fall, we'll have a better sense of where the budget is, better sense of, I think of possibly cost sharing, as you mentioned. I don't know if this is something in the towns would be interested in.
Right.
Because we're all feeling.
It's not just us, you know what I mean? I think and the other thing is, and I really want to say it in my chair's board, all of these boards are volunteers, even the select boards. I don't know if they even get paid. If they do, it's a stipend. The school committee doesn't get paid. These finance committees don't get paid. So to have some guidance would be very, very helpful all across the board, right? Yeah, so, why don't we do that? We could bring that up with April and Kristen and see if it's something that they would be interested in. And like to your point, cost sharing, because if they're gonna be interviewing the towns for the budget process, then.
It feels like, based on the feedback we've gotten this year and the town's desire to work collaboratively, would be a nice, a gesture anyway, to consider this anyway with them together. So and that's up to you, just a suggestion.
Like I said, we're happy to answer follow-up questions through email or phone call. Anyone share the information, if they don't already have our emails, please feel free to reach out and let us know. We structured it also in a way where there's some flexibility in terms of almost like a menu type of options. We did break out some of the services to give you a total. There's potential of starts and stops as well. So if you take a look through that information within, you'll see that it does have particular line items for different types of services within each of the phases.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for the presentation and for coming in.
Yeah, thank you very much.
With us, we did want to make sure
sorry.
we got to it before the summer came, but.
Felt like it came today.
I know.
Right?
So hot, yeah.
Right, everyone's
Great. It's beach weather. It's beach weather, yeah. All right, anyone have any more questions before Michael and Jim take off? All right, great. So next step, Carol and I will talk, we'll be in touch, and then we'll put a formal vote probably in the August meeting. I know the committee will probably convene over the summer and we'll probably have a retreat over the summer or something, but yeah, super fun. All right.
I'm gonna leave these extras here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everything else.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
It's a productive meeting. We're always fun.
I know. Thank you. Thank you. It was so nice to meet you in person.
Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, next. So we're gonna roll right into portrait, right?
Sure.
So Carol's gonna.
Talk about our portrait of a graduate. Well, we're introducing this for the first time to the school committee, and we're going to be fully taking this on the road early next year, but we wanted to share with you first. This is the culmination of months of work from this amazing committee of individuals who volunteered their time from different aspects of our district, community members, staff, administrators, parents, to come up with this document that you see in front of you. You'll have two of them. You'll see this graphic, which we plan to use as our kind of logo going forward, and we'll describe that in just a moment, and then the portrait of a graduate, all of the different pillars that were created by this committee moving forward. This is the vision that this committee of 21 people put together based on their own very different perspectives as they were coming into this session. Those of us who were coordinating this at first were a little cautious, maybe that's a good word, about how this would go over with so many different thoughts and different ways of thinking, I guess I would say. And at the end, melded into this one amazing united group who came up with all of these pillars. During that time together, the group had a chance to listen to alumni, both younger alumni as well as those who had been out of Tohoto many years. It was interesting to hear how similar their perspective on Tohoto was and what they needed, what they felt they needed as they graduated. And then also we had admissions counselors coming in from colleges in the area, colleges and universities, to talk to us about what they saw coming forward to them and what they felt they needed for the skill sets and characteristics of students that they were admitting into these colleges and universities. So I have several of those individuals here tonight. Jen and Joey over there. I do want to read the names of all these committee members because I so appreciated the time. I fed them, which seemed to help. Lots of sandwiches from the deli, and they were really great about that. Some pizza mixed in, but they were just amazing. Also, I do want to talk about the graphics for a moment that you see here. Once the committee had its ideas together, one of our parents, Amber Bio from Berlin, who I was hoping would be here tonight, I don't see her. She had planned to come to the meeting before. Anyway, Amber worked with John Campbell and myself and a little bit with Adam Wilbur, a couple others, to look at this graphic design that we would use. So if you see it, the two hands represent the two elementary schools holding up this tree. That's the Tohoto green tree, and those different images around it are actually represent the resilience of the community and so on. So the next phase of this is the strategic plan. That's more the nuts and bolts of the work we need to do. I think it's a perfect time because it will tie into that 3-year plan that we had developed a while ago that I bring forward again at the beginning of next year to kind of wrap all of that up and begin really digging into what we need to have for our children, our schools. I think it will lead us and guide us into the budget process, among things. Where do we need to spend our money? What do we need to do to develop our children on the curriculum work that we do, and just generally the culture of our schools. So I will stop talking, but I do want, Jessica was on that, Lisa Mayer, our folks down here, all of them, and then Jen and Joey. So I don't know if you want to share your experience, what you learned from this, or your thoughts.
Go ahead.
I thought we were going in order. She started.
Oh, okay. Right, Joey.
I will say I felt the same way in the start. It was a very wide range and eclectic group of people from all different areas, and was curious how it was going to work out. But I will say that once we started to get into it and realize what we were trying to accomplish, which was sort of an inspirational document, a motivational, like a big picture type thing, people started to get behind it. And there were some places where we were in agreement, but we just couldn't agree on how we wanted to express ourselves. So there was a lot of conversation about that because we wanted to make sure that we were saying exactly what we wanted to say. But it was a good experience, and I think at the end we all came up with something where we could all stand behind it and say, yes, this is what we feel. And having the people that came in, the students that came in from who were current students or past students, was incredible to listen to their some of them were very open about what really goes on in the school, which was nice. And then hearing from those admission officers. I went home with a page full of notes from my daughter who's about to apply to college. It's like, this is what they're saying. So there's a lot of really good information I think that we could certainly use to spread around and get the word out. So.
Thank you, Julie.
We also were sure to include those who may not be taking the college track. We had a lot of discussion on the non-college graduates, or not, that weren't going off to college. No, we wanted to make sure that was all part of this discussion and this decision creation.
Cindy?
I would like to say that just bringing everybody to the table, the different perspectives of teachers and administrators, community members, parents, was very eye-opening for me. I mean, I know as an administrator, we hear what parents want, but having us all at the table sharing those ideas was very beneficial, not only as for the district and going forward with this, but for BES as well. And just hearing what everyone had to say. And a lot of it was very similar. Just, it was very nice.
Thanks, Jen, and thanks, Cindy. John?
Oh, just real quickly, I think that it was amazing to watch this kind of come together because there were moments when I was not sure. This was the easy part, right? Bringing this pretty document to life in our schools, that's going to be the hard part. To actually live up to our aspirations. We'll work ahead.
I would have to echo what Joey had said. My favorite part was hearing from the students and having them at the table with us. I think that's so important. Oftentimes, I believe that the students feel that things are happening around them and they don't have a voice. And so that was incredibly important to me. And I too loved the admissions officers from the colleges because I think there's a lot of rhetoric out there of what our students need, but I think we're in like a time shift. Like a lot of that rhetoric is what we remember college that process being, and it's shifted, and we all have to kind of get on the same page. So we're building up our students in a way that's, they'll be productive for their future lives.
Renee? Yeah, I was thinking about what Cindy said, just having different community members coming together. I think that was really important. And I know it was kind of who would like to sign up for this, right? It was kind of authentic, but we ended up getting a variety of stakeholders, which I thought was really important because some of the viewpoints of somebody who has a kindergarten student, right, is very different than somebody who has a graduate that, is 21 years old. So I thought that was it. We did have so many different viewpoints, but I did think it was really important to hear from all of them. That was good.
Jessica?
So as like a Honda grad and a school committee member and a parent of kids in the elementary school, I have certain perspectives and hopes for the education of my own kids. And it was really great to hear the kids in college on Zoom, giving their perspective now that they've left and what they feel they needed and what they got from their education. So, and, it was amazing. There was a lot of different opinions and a lot of different people. And it was a really great process, and I thank you for organizing it. It's a really good project to bring the school to a certain vision. So, thank you.
And Sal?
Much like what Renee was saying about the variety of people, I also was just impressed about how many participants. It was a very large group, which I thought was great. And I also thought that when we had discussions, it was everyone was focused, and they were really good, rich conversations. So it was a great experience.
Well, we set norms early on, and really, I think everybody was respectful of different opinions, and I think that worked well. As you look at the pillars here, the community, resilience, civic engagement, critical thinking, and creativity, it was this kind of, all of the words in here mattered. And to see all of these people trying to wordsmith and it wasn't about wordsmithing, it was getting the right words to convey what they meant in each of, like, the first word, the community, like bringing it down to what did it mean to us? Each of these had meaning. So we worked very, very hard on that. It seems like it was simple, but it really was very complex. So I'm grateful to all of them. So I just, if you don't mind, just want to take a moment just to read the names of the individuals
not at all. I
on
think this is great.
on the committee. And so
Thank you.
Amber Vio, Linda Chicola, Cindy Sykes, Patty Ann Inwood, Lillian Cito, who's our student representative, Stephanie Woodward, Jen Smith, Renee Legendre, Lisa Sequeira, Jessica Degliaberti, Lisa Mayer, Adam Wilbur, Karen Gordon, Kathleen Barry, Darlene Noonan, Joseph Flournoy, Katrina Lawton, Sally Stuples, and then John Campbell. So thank you to all of them, and thank you for the work ahead.
That's
And
awesome.
if I could, I think the organization of it, Carol, John, and Sally, each session was well orchestrated. So I don't believe anybody felt like their time was wasted. It was very focused, but fun and engaging and purposeful. And I thank you all for doing that.
Our next step is to bring these forward to the school, to the PTOs beginning of next year and our school councils to get them familiar, get more people on board, and hopefully we'll be able to have folks who are willing to volunteer for the strategic plan.
So you'll have a committee next year that will work on the strategic plan, and that will essentially turn into like the district improvement plan. Okay, for like the fall, or that'll be for the following, like fall of 2025?
The fall of this coming year.
Fall of 2024.
We'll invite folks to join that committee, but before that, the administrative team is getting training this summer on creating a strategic plan from our colleagues in Mendon Upton to do this, to learn how to do this well. So because they have, if you go on to the Mendon Upton website, you will see their portrait of a graduate with their strategic plan. So I think it'll really lend itself to a deeper, richer, more meaningful plan for the next several years.
Great. Thank you all for participating in that project.
Guys, question.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Carol, I think this is the third year we've been talking about Portrait of a Graduate. 2 years ago, you kind of brought it up to everybody. Last year, you started planning for it. This year was the committee work. I know you mentioned next year, we're gonna take the whole year to do a strategic plan. But I look at the infographic and the logo, and they're great, they're beautifully done. But the infographic specifically, what can we tell parents today? You're taking a step back, the document that you had in there, what is the portrait, right? It says it takes us from where we are to where we want to be. But nothing else that I see in the drive or anything we can tell parents tells them, well, where are we and where do we want to be? I look at the infographic and I think a lot of parents might have the question that I have is, well, this is where you want to be. I was under the assumption that we were doing this, or that we should be doing this now. So what's the outcome of this? When will it come? Because next year will be the fourth year now that we're involved in it in some way. Like, I don't know, I guess I thought after this year, after all the work, not to diminish the work that was done, because I know it was a lot of work that was done. I talk to people on the committee all the time about it. But I just thought we might have something more at this point. What's going to change? What needs to change? Why does it need to change? What's it going to be? How are you going to do it? When is it going to be done? Those types of questions.
Yeah, those are the questions that will get answered, Mike, with the strategic plan.
Yeah, that strategic plan is going to take the whole next year. So
No, it's not. No. I don't feel it's going to be the whole year. I think it's going to be the fall of next year. And I would say with the vision, and to your point, I don't recall because I just took over. Like I talked about it last year when I was.
And 2 years ago, you brought it up. Jeff is still here, and you mentioned it to me at least. I was really excited about it.
Yeah.
Jeff was against it. Last year, you started talking about planning, trying to find the money for it. This year, you put the committees together.
Then we did the work.
Yeah. I'm looking for this to be in place. Like, I'm excited about it. When is it going to be there? What's going to change? How is it going to help? Is the strategic plan going to be in place before the budget talks next year?
Should be, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's just putting down what Tohoto is already building towards and have for decades, or at least from my point of view. And so I think it really was just putting into words and ideas of what the staff is already working towards.
And not only that, Jessica, I think just in general across elementary schools and the high school, to really say, this is what's important to us now. This is what's important to the parents, to the community members, to the staff, and to students about what we want to have for our children when they graduate.
So I guess that is the question, what is important to us now? Like I see the resilience, okay, students will demonstrate the ability to face challenges both collaboratively and independently with adaptability, perseverance, and grit. They don't do that now?
I don't think it was ever defined. I don't think it was ever actually on paper. I don't think it was ever identified. We could say, well, this student has resilience, and maybe that student doesn't, needs some help with that. We can't really tell, but we can at least now look at, these are vision statements, so we want to make sure that all of our students come out with a sense of resilience to what it means to them to be successful individuals when they graduate from top.
So I guess that's my question, yeah, vision statement, it's like a company has a mission statement. It's not good unless you do anything to live it. So are you gonna make changes over the summer to the course offerings to change any of this, or like what is gonna be done to do this?
And that's what we're learning about this summer to guide us in creating that strategic plan as well. Right. How we're going to take these.
How slow the whole process works, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Slow but
things
meaningful.
take time.
Slow and but
But you guys,
meaningful.
what did you meet, 6 times?
Felt like 7. We met for several months, so.
But it was like you guys met once a month, so
Yeah, once a month.
Yeah, it
2
wasn't-
hours.
if you met once a week for 6 weeks, then that's not how volunteers.
That's not achievable.
Yeah, it's not achievable for 20-something volunteers. So I do hear what you're saying, but I get it, because it's government and it's volunteers and it's just.
Yeah, and being respectful of people's time to try to not make it a weekly meeting and burn everybody out. It's hard to make commitments, I think, for folks to do. It's hard to, right, we have a monthly meetings here, but I think it was
Yeah, it's
monthly
hard
and it
to
gave
bring
people a
meetings.
chance to think and talk in between that time. Joey, I'm sorry, did you have your hand up?
I don't
Sorry.
know why I'm not sure why I was speaking second time. I made it through the first one.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
I felt like I wanted to speak because one of the things I said about at the beginning when we sat to what you were speaking about, I think we all realized that there were 20-something people there, that we were all doing these things, but we were all saying it differently, calling it different things. And so part of it was just the unity of hashing it out, having those conversations going, oh, we're all saying the same thing, we're just saying it a different way. So the unity came in, finding a way that we could all accept, this is how we're going to say it from now on. So it's sort of that not a motto, but it's sort of, we are all on the same page. We were all on the same page, we were just reading it slightly a different, like the old elephant thing, we were all feeling a different part of the same elephant. So now we've identified, said, all right, so a lot of it was just coming to that unity, because we are doing these things, all things we aspire to and are trying to accomplish, but now we just sort of have a way to say it in unison, I think was part of that.
Thanks.
I think too, like at the elementary schools, do you still have SOAR?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's like a vision.
I don't know what that is.
Statement.
What's
Oh.
SOAR? We don't have that, do we?
It's like our Be Safe.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like our bees.
It's PBS.
Yeah, our
Yeah, so it's the
bees,
same
about
thing.
our bees, yeah.
Just to have that vision statement of SOAR. I think it's great.
No, I'm not questioning whether it's great, I'm just get it.
I know.
No, I get it. It took a year to gather information and now it's gonna take another 6 months to actually execute on the plan. I get it. All right, anything else? This is good. Thank you to all the participants in that. Especially the principals and the employees that are working all day and then doing these meetings and coming to school committee meetings. So thank you. That's great. Thanks, Jess and Lisa, too. Okay, next up, did anything else before we move on? Okay, Michael, did you have anything that you wanted to say about the budget tonight? I don't want to put you on the spot. You can say, no, I don't have anything to say.
Yeah, I mean, the next phase really is to start sort of rebuilding, especially Berlin's and Tohonto's budget.
Yep.
To address those cuts and changes.
Yep.
So that's why I spent most of my day today is looking at Tohonto, I met with the special ed department, and I'll meet with Lisa to go over, what those line changes will need to be and how we need to address them.
Okay.
And get to a bottom line.
Great.
And then do that with John for Berlin Elementary. And we met briefly today with Cindy to talk about, if there were impacts with Boylston, but of course there aren't.
Well, there would be, if we are using cash, the impact to Boylston would be that cash will come back, but we have to decide.
Yes, that's a different, right.
Yeah, we'll have to decide if we're gonna lower the assessment.
Right.
Right, and then we'd have to let the town know, or if we use the cash.
Right.
The committee can vote to do, we had a laundry list of asks for Boylston Elementary School.
Yeah.
There's a piece of playground equipment, we had originally said the bathrooms need to be redone. We were postponing parking lot project because we didn't have an appropriate quote at the time, so I mean, depending on how much cash we end up using out of E&D and all that stuff.
Right.
So I guess my question is, I know we've got 7 days to get the assessment to the town, right?
But we can always lower it, so we can go with we could try to get a meeting.
Do we have to vote, I guess is the question.
You don't, because it's.
We've already voted on the
You've already
assessment,
voted
yeah,
on the
all right.
assessment.
What about Boylston?
It's the same assessment,
Unless we lower it.
unless we lower it.
If we lower it, we gotta vote,
Right.
and we would do a new assessment letter.
Right.
Okay, but if we don't lower it,
You could stay the course. But you need to have a conversation with their finance committee and their select board, so that can happen, at their,
okay.
involving them in terms of their schedule.
Okay, so once you have numbers solidified, we can get together, I'll reach out, Julie and we can put a subcommittee meeting on.
Do that.
And we'll get with Howard and Matt is here, so we'll definitely get with Boylston and figure out, Berlin, you'll get that assessment letter over. All right, that's good. And then you'll present to the school committee what we ended up doing as far as we use this much cash,
Yes.
all right.
Yeah.
All right, great. All right, so did anyone have any questions? I felt like it moved like 5,000 miles an hour last night, even for me, who was very deep in the details, it was moving quickly. Did anyone have any questions or follow-up they wanted to discuss since we have it on the agenda, or we like budgeted out and we want to just move on? Did you have any? No.
I'm just hopeful that from the 225, or what ended up being 215, that we won't impact any middle school sports that aren't
Not right.
happening.
That list was solid, so I don't think we're changing anything on that list. It's just the 150.
Yeah, well, there's that piece, and then there's definitely the 150 as well, that was going to be more cash applied than reduction.
For that, we kind of need to look at, like, it would be great. Mike and I were talking after the meeting last night. It would be great, and I don't even know if this is doable right now. I know, Michael, you've got so much on your plate. It would be great to get monthly financials and like a budget to actual, like a monthly, yeah. Like, we've never had that before. So to have that type of visibility, and I know I'm not like asking for it now or even like next month, because I know you have to build all that from scratch, but it would be great, like sometime in the beginning of next school year to have that, so the school committee can gauge. The school committee took a lot of criticism for this budget. It was frustrating because we all had so much skin in the game. We were all working so hard. We were all doing the best that we could with the information that we had. So I think it would be wonderful. And I mean, I remember Mike when he was chair asking for these reports. This isn't like something new. So that would be wonderful. Yeah, that's it. Something we never had before. All right, great. Okay, moving right along unless anyone had anything else to say. All right, Carol, I know, Matt, you're here for the CPA conversation. Yeah, do you want to do that before we get to administrator reports and your eval?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, you guys mind?
Not at all. Oh, sorry.
No, I just, can you guys, Joey and Jen, if you don't feel like, I just always feel bad, don't feel like you have to stay. Your portrait of graduate's done. If there's anything else you want. It's all good. It's all good.
Thank you both.
All
Have a
right.
great summer.
Thank you. Yeah, have a wonderful summer. Because I know they were both there last night too. Okay, go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, so Matt texted me earlier today to ask about, tonight, to talk about the CPA, the preservation application, and some things that he wanted to share about fixing our fields over at Tohoto and some of the money that's available to us. So Matt, would you like to go first and I can talk about this application?
Sure, so, I guess I missed that CPA.
That's okay. It was great though. They were so helpful. Yeah, they were really helpful.
Yeah, Elaine.
They were waiting for.
Elaine, yeah. I talked to, I ran into Elaine and Sue at Burlington Marathon.
So kind of how I got pulled into this is their the junior class and the civics class. Is that
Yeah, it's a civics project.
3 of the students there chose to, as their project to renovate the athletic fields. They asked me to help them raise some funds. And obviously CPA is the first thing that comes to mind. And I think, Carol, I think, and you guys probably have more conversations with them. My initial conversation with Boylston side is they were certainly willing to go down that road.
Yeah.
And I know there's a process and, there's a long road to go there, but they're willing to entertain it anyways. I think it's probably 2 phases is my guess. Is the first would be that soccer lacrosse field inside the track, which is a full renovation from what I'm told. Julie, better than me because I know you've done some more work on it. But to me, that's what it is. It's a full renovation. And maybe the other fields don't necessarily need quite as much. I think the baseball field probably next, but second on the list as far as the amount of work that needs to be done. There's certainly traction right now with some businesses in town to help fund, we'll call it phase 1, that field inside the track, either through, cash donations or labor donations or material donations. I have a couple meetings set up with some local landscapers that are interested in helping out. One offered already to, get the room at cost, but whatever, we can do later. So there's a lot there. I guess the only reason I want to come tonight is I really want to make sure the 3 girls that have kind of taken on this project stay involved because I don't want to discourage them, with the work that they put in. I mean, they went out with quotes, they went to put the project together, they're going to present to some of these businesses and things like that. So I just want to make sure that they kind of stay involved and get a win here if that's the way it's going. So.
Yeah. So my first thought is, Julie, we should, I feel like we haven't had a subcommittee meeting in a while for budget, so maybe we can get that on the books. And that was something Matt, Julie, and I had talked about back in the fall, and then when budget season hit, we just everything else kind of just slipped through the cracks. So I'm very much looking forward to getting back on that again. And Elaine Jones is my neighbor, and I've talked to her about the CPA money from Boylston. And the big thing she said was she's absolutely, I think we got to go through the application process. It's something we can look at together. But also she said, Berlin has a share in that as well. So, and I know Julie, you're on that committee as well. And I think there's some funds there. So I feel like I'm very positive about this project. And I think it's just kind of like getting a meeting on the books and getting started. And I took, I think, is it Taylor's email? Yep, I have her email. So I told her I would reach out to her and we could all connect. And I think it's wonderful that students are getting involved in this.
So I do think we can probably get phase 1 funded outside of CPA earlier on,
Great.
One way or another. And if it sounds to me like the simplest way to do that is to run it through the Booster Club, and then they gift the project to the schools. Obviously, you guys would have to accept it. All that, but it'll make it more streamlined and easier as far as the process and all that. So there's some work to do there. I think the initial timeline will start this summer. And see that happening. I'd love to say the fall. That may also be optimistic, but we'll see. I'll know a little more in a few weeks after people get back to me. Some of it's a little tough to pin people.
Yep.
Thank you. Is it used in the spring for track?
Lacrosse. Goes in that same track, yeah.
I mean, and that's a whole other aspect is there's a full year of no use.
Yeah, they said that. They said they were going to talk to Shrewsbury. They said they could use Hillside. I don't know if anyone saw their civics project. It was great.
Yeah.
I don't know. They like had thought of everything. I mean, think 16, 17 years old and going through this. I thought it was phenomenal. But I'd asked them that and they were like, yeah, we found out that you can't use the fields like 6 months after they're done.
Right.
So she said they were gonna look into like using fields in Shrewsbury, using the hillside, working, with Parks and Rec in Boylston, Berlin Fields. Did you have something to say? Sorry.
No, for sure, yeah, I was talking.
Oh.
Matt, thanks for bringing this up, but how old are these fields? 10 years old?
13.
Whenever the school was built, yeah.
Yes.
20?
13, 14.
13 years old.
14 probably.
I remember in the spring when we toured the schools, we were talking about fields, Julie brought it up.
Yes.
And it's 13 years old, it doesn't seem like that old. What's the issue that caused them to be in such a position they need to be completely?
Lack of maintenance,
So, all right, that's what I thought.
decimated field.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
playability.
We
too.
talked about this in the fall with Dan and you, Carol. Is there a written maintenance plan going forward?
So CPA will require that.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, for the application. So we'll have to do that, like,
I do have one.
Okay, because I know that was, we've been talking about that since, what was that, September?
You're talking about like,
You've been doing it since before that, I know.
yeah, no, I'm talking as far as like funding for that, just like even a field that size. I mean, that could be $40,000.
just for maintenance.
Right.
Just for me.
Yeah, we
No,
built
I
in,
understand, $40,000 to maintain it, or how much it's gonna be to completely redo it every couple of years because we don't maintain it.
Well, no, I agree with you. You'll need to have a maintenance plan
That's what
built
I mean,
in.
yeah, because we talked about that, I don't know if it's happening.
But when you think
yet.
about like things that are cutting, you're like, oh, we'll just, put fertilizer for
So-
this first application. It's not a big deal, but it
Yeah.
turns out
For
it is a
30,000.
very big deal,
Whatever.
which you probably.
But there's also a maintenance cost.
What's that?
They got maintenance.
All right, cool.
So we had, this is really frustrating too, because we had in our original budget in February of 2024, full-time maintenance person at Tohoto, which I personally think probably to have a full-time grounds person, right? The person would full-time be doing grounds for the district. And that would eliminate needing to hire a maintenance company, right? Or,
No, they would have to outsource, right?
You would still have to outsource the fertilizer and all
Yeah, you need all that
Okay.
stuff
that. Yeah,
still,
it's a lot. It is.
all right,
It's a
so you
lot.
still need to do that.
We're talking about 7 acres of land.
right?
At Tohoto, yeah.
You also have a drainage issue, which we don't have.
So
Yeah.
the drainage issue, I believe, I need to confirm with the highway superintendent, but he had G&L Plumbing that was gonna come and put a camera down there.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
he said it was coming this week, they were coming this week. So
Ah,
we can find out what the deal is with that pipe, because either there's a valve closed, or there's a blockage, or something, that we don't know what the issue is.
Yeah.
Or we know there's a pump that, the plant says a pump, we don't know if that's real or not.
I know the pump is not there.
We know the pump's not there, we don't know if it,
The plan says the
Really?
pump is supposed to be installed, but it was never installed.
so,
There's no.
the water's not making it to the.
no one knows why.
So we know something's wrong.
And this is a natural grass field because you can't do artificial because of the water, right? Is that right?
And artificial's tricky, actually, artificial is more
Is it?
costly to maintain.
Is it?
Yeah, it's
Well-
more costly to maintain.
And put down, I mean, you're looking at, so the quote right now is 268 for that
Yeah.
field, and you're probably looking at 1.2 for, and that's a complete guess, but it's over $1 million for.
And like, look at Messi won't even play on turf, so is it really that great?
Oh, I mean, hey, I'm a soccer fan.
I do agree,
Julie?
I think it would be an issue though.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, yeah, the conservation.
That's nasty stuff too.
Bad here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we brought them in the fall to look at it, and they weren't too keen on the idea of an artificial turf there, for sure.
Right.
So,
Didn't we build in like $25,000 into the budget for Tohoto? I can't remember if we removed that or if it's in the capital.
I'm trying to bring up the quote today. Was
But it doesn't go,
That was just for like maintenance or something. I can't
so
remember.
what
We had
happens with turf
something.
is,
I can't
if it's a mess out there, right, you're gonna pour in all this money, fertilizer, you need to do like several applications of fertilizer and seed to kill
Right.
out the stuff that's there. Add to that, you can only treat when kids aren't on campus.
Yeah.
So you have that issue
And
too.
you had someone come, and I thought we put, I can't remember now.
It's very tricky.
Thought we put 25,000 in for this budget.
It sounds like they have a pretty good plan worked out now, so that's good.
Yeah, the girls take a good
You're
job.
looking at about
Yeah.
20,000 according to this quote for maintenance, general, fertilizing, all that.
Yeah.
For this quote. I mean, this is-
That's probably accurate, I would say, just for that, for
Might
that
go a little
alone.
bit higher because of the way the condition of the fields are.
I got two quotes. One to redo the whole, this is just a soccer field, this cost $268,000. This is redo the whole soccer field. If a little bit of maintenance plan, it's $25,000.
Right, I thought you brought that to us, and I thought we put that into the capital.
Yeah. My quote's from golf course management.
Yeah, there's another one from Don.
All right,
Probably about the same.
fine.
Yeah, I don't think I saw the renovation one from Golf Course and just maintenance, but Diamond was 668. But I do think we can bring that number down just through donations of material and things like that. I don't know how much, but and then I think we can bring, so we can get money from the other side. So.
Athletic field renovation, 29,240. We built that into the capital budget, 29,240. So that was just to do minor renovations or maintenance or whatever, but it's built into the capital budget for Tohoto for 2024.
2024,
Yeah, $29,240.
not 2020, not.
No, I'm looking at this right now. The subtotal is 109,800, of which Boylston had like 70-something thousand and Berlin had like 28 or something. Yeah, it was 29,240 for the athletic field, 8,100 for the HVAC, 15,000 non-student device repair, walkie-talkie.
You're talking about next fiscal year.
Sorry, 2025. Yeah, it starts 2 weeks,
Right.
July. Yeah, so that was approved on both ends. So the cash is there for that. We have it's 29,240. So that should be something to jumpstart the project or whatever. Put a deposit down or whatever is needed, but that was built into the budget, athletic field renovation.
And then the money for this grant will be for next summer, but we need to have, and the committee recommended getting 2 individuals, one from each town, we have to get a determination of eligibility form completed and submitted by September 1st. So they asked me to get 2 volunteers from the school committee to do that over the summer. And also asked about getting Berlin to work with us on that.
Yeah, I can work on it.
So Julie, why don't we have a subcommittee meeting and we can work on that? All right, so we'll do that and we'll figure out.
That's it.
We need to get quotes on the rest of the fields too, right? So I think the only one I got an answer from was the softball field, and I was just told the softball field was fine and just needs infield. Whatever. Play or whatever.
That's good.
I don't know what the rest of it, but so we just have to get a price on whatever those will be.
Okay, great.
I mean, does the DCR have any regulations about the fertilizer put down?
Well, that's the thing, fertilizer is tricky, more expensive than that indoor games.
Yeah, we have the same thing in Berlin too, because we have water sources there.
So I'll just keep you guys posted on what I can raise and then see what the cash is there.
Yep.
Yeah, you should raise all the money.
Yeah, right through the booster club. That's perfect.
That's actually smart.
Yeah, so I think we can get there. It's just gonna take more time. So it's not the fill and the rest of it. We need to get costs on and figure out that, but that's step 2.
All right, that's great.
Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Should
Thanks
we
for
should
coming
have a
back.
plan?
I appreciate it.
We should have some plan for getting that field at least as much grass as possible before soccer starts out for the fall.
Yeah.
So you'll probably need to do a couple of fertilization applications, right?
They already did one.
We did?
A couple.
Oh, great.
They just did one a couple weeks ago.
Oh, great, all right.
There's also an option on those quotes to just do half of that field, which I assume means the other half must not be terrible. I think it is too, unless we can only raise that to 20.
Right.
And then we just do it, right?
Right.
We'll see if we can. All right.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Thank
Thank you. Principal reports. Mrs. Sykes, would you like to go first?
I would love to. Thank you for allowing me to share the positive things at the end of the year that came fast and furious. We had a lot of field trips. We had a lot of parent involvement coming in, which I'd like to see more of that through the course of the year instead of the end of the year next year. We'll work on that. We had an amazing field day, 5th grade recognition. And the biggest thing I'd like to highlight is we have the PTO and the BEF have joined forces and are now known as BEPTO. Yes, I said BEPTO, not PEPTO. Boylston Education Parent Teacher Organization. And they provide us, both organizations provided us with so many resources for our students. We look forward to working with them again next year. There is a proposal I'll bring up later for the after-school program, if that's okay.
Yeah, did anyone want to talk about the after-school program? So Cindy had a proposal out there for the after-school program to increase the fees. I did not realize that the fees at BES were different than the fees at BMS. I had no idea until I looked at that. Well, Carol brought that to me like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. She was like, did you know? And I said, I had no idea. My kids don't do after school. So did you guys want to discuss that now? Did anyone have any questions on that?
Can I explain?
Oh, yeah. Why don't you go through that?
So, thank you. So, Michelle Haydam and Eileen McQueen they run this, and they have come to me with this a little bit. The main reasons is there's some staffing and training for the staff. There's some things that happened in the after-school program that I'd like to get ahead of for next year. But it's basically trying to make it more consistent with other districts. Our program can be BMS, but our program is very big. Sometimes we have 80 kids there, sometimes we can have 125. And we want to make it safer. We want to make sure the staff is trained there. And we have enough staff to watch that many children. So it's bringing it up probably about 20%, and then having a discount for as the children go ahead. That is something Michelle Haydam kind of compared it with BMS to see where they are and to make it a little bit consistent, but also to give that percentage discount if you have more children. So everything is laid out there, what it would look like compared to other districts. She did her homework, both of them did, just to see where that is.
So the proposed increase is on the second page. And so, for example, if you have one child that goes 1 day a week, it would be $60 per month.
Instead of $50.
Instead of $50. Okay. So these are monthly fees.
And we were looking at about a 20% increase this year, so not to hit parents too much, but to raise it. We were talking with Michael
Gotcha.
about that, and that's recommended.
Yes.
And raise it a little bit every year till the both schools.
Right.
I mean, coming from daycare to after-school costs, like it's quite cheap, well, affordable.
Can't believe how far under we are.
Yeah.
I mean, with everything we did last night, you're gonna have to probably increase that too.
Yeah, it's shocking.
So-
Yeah, that's the difference. It's just shocking. So, yeah.
I say that as someone who uses it 2 or 3 days a week for 2 kids, so.
Yep.
Charlie?
I think this is a leftover from the days when we were 2 separate districts. And so the districts were setting their own rates.
Right, yeah.
So
But
these are all those
EMS
cleanups.
is lower than other towns.
But BES just never raised their fees for like 9 to 10 years, right? That was the situation. So,
9 years.
yeah. I mean, I don't think these increases are too, so we'd be voting on raising BES to the proposed increases, which was on page 2. It's about a 20% increase for one child. If you have 2 or 3 kids, you get a discount. Okay, does anyone have any questions on this? It's fair.
Where does the money go for after-school program? Other than obviously to the
It's a
staff, I know.
revolving fund. It should be dedicated to the after-school program.
Right.
I haven't looked into it, but I understand there are some fees that may go to related costs, like some for the custodian that's there that during the time that they're there and to help out and things like that. I'll have to look at that and make sure that it's apportioned appropriately or how it's apportioned. But anything that's related to the operation of the program can come out of that revolving account.
And then any excess would just stays in a revolving.
Just
for-
stays in the account.
Just a revolving for the district, not for after school,
No, it stays in
Yes.
dedicated to that,
to after school.
to after school.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we can come up, depending on, again, like we were talking about last night, we want the funds to be there perpetually. So, we could look at, cost for rental of the space, because it's, it's an enterprise fund, it's running itself. Cost for running, having a director, having, staff. Is it staffed appropriately? I think there's some question about the number of staff per student. So, maybe we come up with a rule that we should have one adult for 10 children, whatever, and figure out a budget for it and say, okay, well, now, we're not quite doing it that way. We're kind of doing it backwards in the sense that, we're just trying to even out between the two community programs. But, we could do that and actually apportion some costs back to the general fund, so to speak, so that they're operating.
Yeah, so that's a
That's a good idea.
Yep. Okay,
Okay,
all
great.
right. Mrs. Sykes, did you have anything else?
No, that is it.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Campbell?
I'll be brief. Thanks for including me. End of the year was as lovely as always. I think the thing I'll highlight is probably the end of the year concert that our combined 4th and 5th grade band and chorus students do. I'm always amazed at the quality of music that comes out of very small children, because I hear them in 4th grade and I think they're never going to be able to play a tune. And miraculously, Mrs. Bruss always gets them there. The same thing with Audrey Thompson, who does just an amazing thing. I did have a concern, the whole New York theme was fine, but there were several lovely Buffalo songs they could have rapped into it, and chose not to. But other than that, Nature's Classroom was amazing. The kids really enjoyed that. Last day of school and clap out. It was a good end of the year. Not nearly as stressful in my school as it was for the committee. So, thanks.
All right, great, thank you. All right, did anyone have questions for John? Okay, Ms. Sequeira.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me to share this. It was very busy end of the year. I knew it was going to be busy, and I wasn't quite expecting it to be as busy as it turned out to be. First, all testing was completed the first week of June. I think that's always a surprise that we are doing MCAS testing right up through June 4th and 5th. I think it's important to note that the 8th grade students they sat for 4 separate MCAS exams this year. Math, ELA, science, and they added the civics exam this year, and that was 2 separate sessions. So therefore, they only tested, Ames web testing, they only sat for that twice this year. But that is important to note to understand how much testing our students undergo. For graduation exercises for the class of 2024 were held on June 2nd at 2 p.m. It was a beautiful ceremony, and I was so proud of the students. 76 students earned their diploma, and there are a few stats that I'd like to share. There were 69 seniors that applied to 174 different post-secondary institutions. So there was a lot of applications. And quite a few of those, there will be students attending colleges and universities in Massachusetts, but also in 17 different states outside of Massachusetts.
Wow.
So that's pretty impressive. We have about 76% of the students went off to a 4-year college, 11% to a 2-year, 4% to career education or technical training programs, and 8% joining the workforce. And we had one graduate who was already part of the United States Army. So that was an impressive group of young people. We will miss them a great deal. I think the last 3 highlights. the career fair, which had been one of the very few snow days, the original career fair held, we rebooked it for June 6th, and it was really a wonderful opportunity for our community members to come in and meet with our students and for them to share their work experiences and the training that went into professions in various different fields. I think that it's incredibly worthwhile. And the guidance department creates scavenger hunt to go around so the students actively, because high school students, they're kind of like, oh, what do I say? But this gets them. And then once they start talking, it becomes this really fruitful conversation. And we've heard several people mention the CAP Fair, the Civic Action Project. This was the first year we invited community members to come in and share their projects. And that was amazing. I was so proud of all the projects, and I was so proud of the work they did and the confidence they had and how they presented themselves. And that is what Tohoto is all about. And I was so proud of them. It was great. And shout out, fantastic middle school field day. PTO hosted an amazing field day. Julie, thank you so much for all of your help. It was an outstanding kind of end of the year. And then we had 8th grade graduation on the last day, and it was great. Great year. Thank you. Thank you for letting me share. Any questions?
No, thank you. That was great. All right. So I did want to say one thing. Sorry, I just got distracted for a second. Thank you for including us for the civics career, the civics action project. Sorry. I thought that was excellent. I was blown away by the projects and some of the ideas that the kids had. I forgot what it was like to be in high school. It's been so long, and I have little kids, but it really blew me away to see how much some of these kids want to give back to their community. So thank you for including us. I hope that the school committee will, and I saw pretty much almost everyone on the committee at least popped in. So I'm hoping that you'll include us next year. Yeah, I saw select board, and I saw people, all different people. Steve Merrow was there from the highway department, so it was awesome to see everyone from the community.
It really was.
But yeah, thank you for doing that.
I love that we did that this year.
That was great.
That was really great.
Yeah. All right, fantastic. Okay, anything else for Ms. Sequeira?
Next year, might want to expand it to the gym.
Oh yeah,
it was hot.
We actually just didn't. We had no idea. So moving forward, right? Absolutely. So moving forward, we absolutely will have a different bigger. We thought it would be like nice and cozy. We didn't need
it
to
was
be
crowded.
cozy.
Very good.
It's very hot. Yeah,
That was great.
Okay, Janelle.
Sure. So I submitted a report to you with a snapshot of student data for the last, I believe that is 6 years, representing different student groups that constitute high needs. And, I think it's interesting to show how our small district changes little by little over the years. And on the second page, you can see that there's some definitions there that accompany those categories.
Okay, great. Did anyone have any questions about this? Okay, is there anything else? Okay. Sally.
Yeah, so you've seen my report, so as you saw that there's a couple items on there that Lisa actually just spoke about, one of them being the career fair, and so I know you've already talked about it, but I was just also very impressed that, first of all, last year I think we had about 16 different participants, and this year originally when we scheduled it for April, we had 24, which I thought was great, and although we had to reschedule, we still got 20 participants to come back, so
it's great.
So I was really happy about that, and it was a nice variety of participants as well. The other thing Lisa mentioned was also the Civics Action Project. Another thing is that I know that we came in and had a first read on the new wellness policy, And there were some great questions that were brought up for actual draft so that we can bring it back for a vote in the fall. But in the meantime, Lisa Mayer and also Lisa Lemro, who's our lead nurse for the district, and I were invited to a wellness, to a conference in Norwood in May, where we were recognized by the acting commissioner for being wellness champions for the work that we did with the coaching program that we were associated with there. So that was really great. And then the other one was just that I also was asked to do a presentation for DESE's Digital Literacy and Computer Science Conference in Westboro. And that was a great conference too, because they had all sorts of different topics that I was able to bring information back to our STEM.
Awesome, thank you. Did anyone have any questions for Sally? Okay, wonderful. Moving right along, Paul.
Good evening. I also have a pretty brief report that just highlights about state and federal reporting. I get an update on the federal side. We did, when the last time I reported on this, we hadn't submitted yet. We did submit on time. All the data was reviewed by the feds, and at this time, they didn't have any questions or need any further details from us about our submission. So that's always a good when you get past that review process. And again, noted that typically this is an every other year, but because of COVID, last year's was delayed. And so we will be having to do that report again. And again, at this point, we probably already have about 60% of the data ready for next year's submission. End of year typical stuff from the state includes those 4 different reports that I've noted. Basically, it's kind of like covering the schools, the student side, the teacher side, the course and our course offering side, and in the end of the year, they have an added school safety and discipline report that needs to be done. And again, most of that reporting is looking good. We have some minor errors that still need to be corrected before the August deadlines for those reports, but that should not be issues for us to do. I did want to, on that second page of the report, want to commend Bonnie Warren, who is the data support specialist, I think is her official title. She does a wonderful job keeping our data clean and up to date and error-free as much as possible, so that when it comes to my portion of what needs to be done as far as like actually getting it to the state or to the feds, makes that job so much easier. So again, I wanted to take the time to publicly say that as well, that Bonnie Moore does a wonderful job, and I don't know how I can do my part of that without her support. And then the second item was the fiber grant project. It is moving. All the fiber has been run to this building, to Berlin Memorial and central office. They were supposed to actually finish today, running into Boylston Elementary, but they ran into some snags at the 140-70 split. And so it's currently going to be now, because they actually are losing some of their crew that was going to work, it's not going to happen until next Thursday. But again, it should be done by the end of the month. And from the internal side, Carol approved POs today that will get the equipment that, once the fiber runs are completed, will allow us to actually have the communication between the buildings and, again, make some improvements in our internal network.
All right, great. Did anyone have questions for Paul?
Is there any cell service update at Zohotown?
Cell service.
Yeah, so on the town side, they keep asking Verizon for updates as far as like where they're at with it again. Like they have added additional 5G networking along Route 70. They haven't indicated back to the town whether they're going to add more. Again, they just basically continue to do testing. You'll see every once in a while that there will be a Verizon truck out, and again, they spot test, but, yeah, I don't have a lot of information for you because Verizon is very close about what they're doing.
They're installed past the center of town towards, like, I think it's almost like those things are installed all the way to Tohoto, right?
They are, again, originally what they had told the town that they were gonna do about every third or fourth pole, and then it became more like, we might do 4 or 5 between Route 70 and Tohoto, and there is one right out front. If you don't have a 5G phone, it's not really helping you at this point. Again, anecdotally, I can tell you that most folks still have an issue here unless they get out front. Being in a building that is made of concrete and metal is still going to be an issue even with that there.
Okay, something.
And again, I think you guys, like in the school tech, in your subcommittee, you talk, I think before you start thinking, well, okay, are we gonna do other things in terms of trying to get a better signal in here, you're dealing with whether you want to have kids having cell phones on their bodies at any point anyway. So, it's like those conversations, I think, almost have to happen first before you start saying, going down the road of, all right, do we need to add
The repeaters.
internal?
Yeah, that's the repeaters that we talked about. Yeah, it was like 200 grand, right? Okay.
I was thinking more for when people are in the school, like parents, if they're at things.
Yeah, the safety issue. The other thing is like a safety issue. Like today, did you see the 911 lines were down?
Yeah.
So it's just stuff like that scary.
869-2113. Right.
Oh my God, you got it memorized?
From childhood, yes.
Good for you. God,
Thank you,
I need
Paul.
to teach my kids.
You're
Yes. Thank you very much. Okay. Last but not least, Dan. Hi.
Just a couple updates on BES roof. We're doing an initial walkthrough on July 18th, 10 a.m. The water bidder would be awarded on July 29th. Anticipated completion date would be September 30th. I was told it should not affect school.
That's great. Yeah, Matt sent an email today. So this report in the drive, I didn't get a chance to read this whole 232 pages. I was like, who wrote this? All right.
How often do those get done, those reports?
Talk about the BES roof.
No, I'm sorry, I thought she was going back to the report now.
Yeah, I just was referencing this report. This is a new report.
Yeah.
What was this from? I don't.
You talking about the AEI?
Yeah.
That's the Tohoto facility addition assessment that was performed.
That's Tohoto.
Well, I did not know that we did a Tohoto facilities assessment. That was not in the budget.
It's part of last year's capital.
Yeah, it was in capital.
It was last year's capital? I did not.
Sorry to interrupt, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, we decided BMS and BES had added some.
I don't know why I thought we put it off, we'll do that in 2 years, because it was in the building. But anyways, this is great. I haven't had a chance to read through this, so.
I think the
Jesus.
time it's a long report.
Yeah, it's 232 pages.
Yeah, because highlights.
I did find it curious, they.
The bad and ugly.
Highlights, there was a lot of, so on the report, the report is a really good report. It's an excellent report. I mean, I did reach out to Hubby for I reached out to another company. And this company, AEI Consultant, came out the lowest cost. I did get a reference check on them, came out solid. They did Boston Housing Authority, they did a couple schools in Maine. So I went ahead and gave them the job. We met here, walked through the whole entire building in and out. We have a lot of mechanical issues, as you can see on the report. What I like about this report, they also give you a 10-year capital plan.
Mm-hmm.
And give you the cost estimates.
I think we had boiler repairs already in the budget, right? Which is one of the things they.
So what are the highlights, Dan?
A lot of work to be done in year 7.
Yeah.
A lot of money for a lot of repairs.
So we need to start, we should create like stabilization funds, or is it like, I mean, I guess we can take this offline, we don't need to get deep into this, but I feel like, and like, again, this kind of goes to the budget subcommittee. And the more I keep thinking, I'm like, maybe we do need a third person on that committee. So,
You got your immediate, your short-term repairs, you got the asphalt, concrete framework repair,
HVAC, 256,000, we have like 15,000 in the budget.
I gotta tell you, when I read the report, and I went to the things that I know, which was the athletic, I questioned how he could rate, or she, or whoever did this report, the athletic fields in good condition. Because they're in deplorable condition.
Yeah.
So it made me think, and
Well, I highlighted some of the areas that I told them that we are planning to redo, which is the soccer field.
so he wrote it was in good condition despite it not being in good condition. I guess that's what I mean. It just led me to believe that if he wrote that's in good condition, I'm not versed in all the mechanical stuff to know, but it did. It did.
We do know we have a lot of mechanical issues here, like currently right now, the cafeteria, the AC is not working.
Yep.
The rooftop unit over the band room
Mhm.
has a compressor leak.
Yeah.
We know about that also, the one in the chorus room, just seems to scratch, which no one wants to.
I'm just hoping that he got all the areas that need repair, that it's in here, so we have a starting point to go from when we're at these. You know what I mean? Basing that on, what I'm saying is the athletic fields, he said were good and they're awful. So if there's other things in here that he said were good and they're not, and, you know, we need to prioritize what needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
Right.
In general, I guess my comment on this is like, we need to have like some type of stabilization fund for this building because we own it as a district. This isn't something we can throw back to the town and say, hey, the air conditioning doesn't work in the whole building. We need a building like this. Many rooms don't have windows. You can't not have, do you know what I mean? Not have some type of ventilation. If something breaks, that's significant. Do we have some, I mean, this is the district-owned building, right? We can't go back to a town and say, hey, these windows are the roof is leaking, fix the roof. We can't do that with this. That's on us. And we don't have any type of stabilization fund. And to go back to the towns and wait for a budget cycle and be like, oh, we need a roof, it's gonna be $5 million. Or, you know, year 7, we need $5 million worth of repair. Like, it's just not logical. So we need to figure something out for this building. That's number one. Number two, to Julie's point, like, I mean, I'm not here personally, so I can't speak to the fields, but I just feel like we need a better maintenance plan on like everything. I mean, I feel like Mike had brought this up before. And, it's just troublesome that it's scary. I don't know. It's scary is what it is to me. Another project to add to the to-do list, right?
But I think opening up the dialogue with the towns with these assessments, like, you know, because like Boylston stuck up on the roof, you know,
But they own that building, they, like by the lease, they kind of have to.
But like knowing it's coming, right? So like,
Yes.
kind of like along the lines of stabilization, I mean, where does the money come from ultimately?
The towns, yeah, we just have to say, we're trying to, so we're
like
gonna
saying
budget,
this-
yeah.
And this many years is gonna need this, you know, can we budget?
We need to start budgeting now, yeah, if like in year 7, we need this money, and we need to put away like an extra $100,000 a year or $50,000 a year. But I think that's something, I don't know if that's common in regional districts where the region owns the building, I just don't know anything about those finances, I mean.
Yeah, not a stabilization per se, but developing a capital plan that balances it out so that each year it's not too drastic.
Yeah.
So you
Okay.
look at
We
the
need to do
projects
that.
and the costs, and, you know, even though the roof isn't as bad now, you know, you try to maybe do the roof first and then other projects along the way.
Yep.
You know, $5 million is gonna be borrowing anyway.
So
Yeah.
what becomes now of this 232-page document? Do you sit down and then prioritize with Lisa and Carol? Okay.
Well, with a subcommittee, like we did remember we did it for BES, Julie? We sat down
Well,
with
yeah,
them.
but
and-
this is like,
I know.
wow, this is.
Yeah, it's like that to an exponent.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that one was like 40 pages.
right? This is big one, yes, middle high school.
Well,
All right.
yeah. Okay, so we definitely have some work this summer. Okay, great. Thanks, Dan. Anyone have questions for Dan? Anything? Okay, wonderful. Moving right along. Okay. So, Jess, do you have any updates on the Student Success and Technology Subcommittee?
We didn't have a meeting after that one on that Friday since the last meeting, but kind of to what Paul was saying about, cell phones within the school, that has to be kind of tackled by the two subcommittees, the policy and the technology, student success, because I think, it's affecting mental health, and so I think that should be addressed pretty early on next.
Yeah, I wonder if you guys could do like a joint meeting. But I agree. Budget, we have not met. We talked about the budget. We've been talking about the budget nonstop. But we should meet sometime in July. Okay, great. I'm going to skip superintendent eval because I know, Jess, you're going to present all of Laurie's stuff. I'll just skip over to Mike first, and then we'll let you go do that. And that'll be the last thing we have on our agenda tonight. We have a few votes. So, Mike, did you have a policy subcommittee update?
I do.
Okay, great.
So we took ILD off the vote for tonight because we hadn't heard back from the attorney. After we took it off, we heard back from the attorney this afternoon.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
So we're gonna take a look at it. He said two things basically. He said the amendments as written, he used the term legally sound. And then he did suggest a couple of logistical changes so that the school would have an easier time meeting it. But that's the update we have from him. So we're gonna get back together and take a closer look at it. And he came in like, 3 o'clock. I was still in the office today, so
yeah,
I just read through it quickly, but that's the update.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, no need to rush on that stuff. So yeah, you guys will meet and figure that out. So thank you. Okay, Jess, take it away. Thank you for doing this for Laurie.
Yep. So Laurie and I were on the superintendent evaluation subcommittee, and so Laurie had done this in the past, so she led the effort. So MASC kind of puts out a template, and Carol was very nice in setting her goals according to that template, which made things exponentially easier, I have heard, than in past years. So I just wanted to thank you for organizing your goals and your evidence aligning with that evaluation template. So just kind of to read the purpose of this. So it's a summative evaluation report compiling 5 individual superintendent evaluations submitted by the members of the Berlin-Boylston Regional School Committee on May 25th, 2024. So there are 2 purposes to this report. First, it provides a rich source of feedback to the superintendent as part of an ongoing improvement cycle, and that should inform reflection on current year's efforts, as well as goal setting for the upcoming school year. Second, the report provides the basis for the school committee's deliberations and decisions regarding its evaluation of the superintendent's performance, which is tied by contract to the superintendent's salary. So following the receipt of this report, the Berlin-Boylston Regional School Committee will discuss the compiled evaluation results in a public meeting, striving to understand committee members' varied perspectives and to reach a consensus on the superintendent's overall performance rating. The committee then records 2 votes, a vote to accept the final report with any proposed revisions, and 2, a vote on the committee's overall performance rating of the superintendent's performance for this past school year. So thus the report, as represented here, does not represent the committee's final deliberations or decisions and may undergo revisions during the school committee meeting. And so in past years, I guess it was summative, so all the different feedback was looked upon and kind of condensed. And so we agreed that it's lost in translation. So the quotes were, everyone's feedback was given, and names are taken off, and it was put into the report in its entirety. And so I just very briefly wanted to pick some highlights that kind of summed up the overall report. And again, these have no names attached to them. So Carol is a rare combination of hard work, passion, and peaceful presence. It's clear that she has worked diligently, creatively, and collaboratively to exceed her goals on behalf of the students and district. We're very fortunate to have Carol at the helm. She always puts forth a positive attitude, works harder than most people, and welcomes everyone's point of view in problem solving. She values district policy, student safety, and the education of each child in this district above all else. Carol needs to continue to build a strong central office staff to complement her performance. I'm confident that she will continue to sharpen her knowledge of regional school district budgeting over the next year. It's been a pleasure and privilege working with Carol this year. I know Superintendent Costello is curious to find new and different ways to build and fund programs for our district, and when you're curious, you find lots of interesting things to do. As we complete this evaluation with still uncertain results for the budget, and say that while Superintendent Costello has done great things, there are still many things to improve upon. Carol Costello gathered detailed documentation of her obvious efforts to improve the district and herself as a superintendent. Her efforts for community engagement were witnessed many times, dressing up in a costume for elementary Halloween parades, coffee chats at the town libraries, attendance at town meetings, school performance, and sporting events. I appreciate her drive to learn via Mars Mentors and MASS and MASC resources, and look forward to her and us to grow from what we learned this budget season. Congratulations to Carol on her well-documented growth as superintendent this year. We're thankful for such a level-headed, thoughtful superintendent. Superintendent Costello has demonstrated proficiency in her goals this school year. While some focus areas are stronger than others, this particular year presented several unforeseen circumstances that challenged the leadership ability of Carol. She remains steadfast and committed to reaching her goals throughout these challenges. I would, however, like to see Superintendent Costello continue to develop a better understanding of the budget and spend more time observing teachers in action. Superintendent Costello has a great strength in the areas of instructional leadership, parent and community engagement, professional culture, and has greatly improved in the areas of policy, which was self-admitted weakness of hers from the outset. She approached each goal with commitment, visible via her evidence of meetings, action plans, walkthroughs, book talks, retreats, and other methods. I would encourage Superintendent Costello to refine her goal for budget to revise that goal for next year. This is the only goal area that needs improvement. The 2023-24 school year was not a predictable or easy one. Despite the difficulties that even a seasoned superintendent would struggle with, Ms. Costello persevered and gave her goals and this district her all.
Thank you. That was great. For some reason, it will not open on this computer right now, on this internet. I don't know. I opened it at home and now I can't open it here. No, it's fine. I read it. Did anyone have any comments, questions? Carol, did you want to respond?
I just told Jess before the meeting, I just got this at 2:30.
I know. You probably haven't read it.
Just be circumstances. So anyway, I haven't had a chance to fully digest it, but I will respond to the school committee around it.
It's a lengthy document.
It is, yeah.
And that's what we have to do is we give it to you right before we discuss it. So that was, right? That's what we have to do is give it to her like the day right before we discuss it. Yes, I'm pretty positive about that. My recollection of how that goes.
Yeah, I think it wasn't supposed to open until today or something.
Yeah, okay. All right, anyways, that's fine. So yeah.
So I'll respond.
Yep.
We'll respond.
Yeah.
To the school committee this summer.
Yeah, and we can talk about it. But we do have to, all right, so that being said, Justin, do you have anything else? What about the self-eval? That did not, are we not done that? There was something wrong with that.
So we had a customized one and our MASC field agent switched or retired or is
that's
no
right.
longer with MASC, and so we have, I guess, lost that. And the new one said, no, here's a generic one.
Yeah, I did the generic one. It was very generic.
So I think we haven't had a.
Okay, that's okay. That's
meeting to
okay.
discuss
No,
that one,
no,
so
no
Laura and I
worries.
can touch base on that.
Yep, no, we have all been totally buried with school committee work. So, yep, I texted Laurie when I did it and I was like, is this supposed to not have any comment fields? And she was like, nope, it's supposed to have comment fields. No worries. All right, great. So did anyone have anything else to say about the superintendent evaluation? Because we do have to vote to accept the summative report.
So the overall scoring among all the 6 members, 5 was proficient, which is what we expect, and 1 was exemplary.
That's great. Okay, could I please have a motion to accept the superintendent evaluation summative report?
So,
Julie,
Second.
Mike, any discussion on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. That motion passes. We already voted on the field trip. I'll skip the donation just now. We talked about the after-school program. I feel like we already discussed that. Did anyone have any other discussion before we get into that? Or is everybody okay with those fee increases?
It's a great service for working parents.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with the fee increases. They haven't increased in a while, and that will hopefully give the ability to the school to maybe add staff or to have a little bit more wiggle room with the program. All right, so could I please have a motion to approve the BES after-school program fee increase as based on the schedule provided?
So,
Julie and Mike, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. That motion passes. Okay, we had a Boylston Lions Club donation to the BES Art Department. Cindy, do you want to give us the 2-second version on that?
Yes, they donated $1,000. I believe they reached out to Lauren Cuppins and just offered it. I don't think she went after it. Her and I were supposed to connect and we just didn't have time.
Yeah.
But they're giving $1,000 towards the arts department.
Yeah, that's from Katie's 5K, Katie Shaw.
Oh, that's the Katie's
Yes.
5K. Oh, did she look
really nice.
She was very much in the arts. Yeah.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Oh my God, that's great.
That's really
Well, thank you for that. Did anyone have any questions about that? Okay, could I please have a motion to approve the Boylston Lions Club donation of $1,000 to the Boylston Elementary School Art Department? Mike, Julie. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. That motion passes. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. We are going to move into executive session. Everyone else can leave. Could I please have a motion to enter into executive session without returning back to open session? We have one quick vote we have to do.
So,
Julie, Mike. All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Jess?
Aye.
Julie?
aye.
Mike? I'm an aye as well. All right, that motion passes. Meeting adjourned. We're going to go into executive session.